Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The rain had just stopped, leaving the grass damp beneath me as I sat there, brushing droplets from my palms. The air smelled of wet earth, heavy and alive, the evening sky still streaked with fading silver clouds. I felt him before I saw him, his presence warm against the coolness of the breeze. His shadow stretched over me, and when I tilted my head back, his eyes locked onto mine with that unshakable intensity that always made my chest tighten. A faint smile curved at his lips, not the casual kind, but the one that carried unspoken thoughts, bold, daring, like he knew exactly what I was waiting for without me saying a word. My heartbeat quickened, pounding in my ears as if trying to escape. I swallowed hard, caught between the comfort of his closeness and the fire sparking in the way he looked at me. He reached down suddenly, brushing a wet strand of hair from my cheek. His fingers lingered too long, trailing with a deliberate slowness that sent a shiver down my neck. I tried to breathe steadily, but his hand pressed lightly against my shoulder, grounding me, pinning me in that moment where the world seemed to fade out. The silence stretched, charged, daring me to say something, daring me to move, but neither of us did. I tilted my face up a little more, and his breath grazed my lips, warm and unyielding. His closeness was overwhelming, the teasing almost unbearable, as if every second he didn't touch me fully was part of some silent game he was winning. My skin buzzed with anticipation, my body leaning toward him without permission, every nerve screaming for the inevitable. And then, he leaned in, close enough that the world disappeared around us. His voice came low, husky, barely a whisper against my ear. "You're not going anywhere tonight." The words froze me, lit me on fire, and left me stranded in the same moment. My pulse hammered, my lips parted in a breath I didn't even realize I'd been holding. Before I could answer, he shifted closer, and the damp grass beneath my hands became the only thing keeping me steady as he guided me back, his eyes never leaving mine. Just as his mouth brushed the edge of mine, footsteps crunched against the wet ground behind us. Someone else was there. The night wasn't ours alone. The sound of footsteps faded into the night, leaving only the echo of my racing heartbeat. His hand was still hovering near my cheek, but the spell had been broken, replaced by something heavier, something neither of us wanted to name out loud. I looked away first, staring at the damp blades of grass pressed against my palm, and for a fleeting second, I wondered if this closeness was filling the void between us or deepening it. We had been married for years, bound by vows that once felt unshakable. But lately, silence had grown between us, silence not born from comfort, but from secrets. He worked late, and I stopped asking where he was. I smiled when he touched me, but sometimes I wondered if the smile reached my eyes. And now, sitting here in the dark with his gaze scorching through me, I felt the weight of every unspoken question pressing harder than the wet ground beneath me. His fingers brushed over my wrist, slow and deliberate, as though he could sense my hesitation. "You're distant," he murmured, not as an accusation but as a confession. The words lodged in my throat. How could I tell him I'd noticed the same in him? The way his laughter didn't linger as it used to, the way his eyes sometimes drifted away mid-conversation, as if he were carrying thoughts too heavy to share. But desire, strange and stubborn, wove itself into our cracks. Every stolen glance, every charged silence, it was as if the tension between us was the only bridge left standing. And in that fragile closeness, I realized something dangerous. Part of me wanted more than just to mend what was broken. Part of me longed to feel alive again, even if it meant stepping into shadows I had no business touching. His thumb traced circles against the inside of my wrist, a soft, grounding pressure. I could feel the hesitation in him too, the way his body leaned toward me but stopped just short, like he was afraid of crossing a line neither of us could uncross. "You're hiding something," I whispered, finally daring to look up at him. For the first time that night, his eyes faltered. Not a blink, not a smile, just a flicker, enough to confirm what I already knew. We both were. The night wrapped around us tighter, the quiet almost unbearable. He leaned in again, his breath grazing the edge of my jaw. For a moment, I thought he might finally let it all spill out, the truth, the secrets, the longing, but instead, he pressed his forehead to mine and sighed, his silence saying more than words could. I closed my eyes, torn between wanting to pull him closer and wanting to push him away before I drowned in what he wasn't telling me. My chest ached, my lips trembled, and still, I lingered there, suspended in the cruel beauty of almost. And then, in the distance, laughter carried across the night air. Familiar. Too familiar. It wasn't just us anymore. The laughter cut sharper the second time, peeling through the night like a reminder of what waited just beyond the shadows. I stiffened, the sound too familiar to ignore. His eyes met mine, and in them, I saw something raw, recognition. It wasn't just any couple nearby. It was them. The ones we had once called friends, too close, too curious, the ones whose glances lingered a little longer than polite. My chest tightened, not from fear, but from the dangerous thrill twisting in my stomach. He shifted closer, his hands slipping to the small of my back, possessive, as if he knew my thoughts were no longer entirely his. The heat of his palm burned through the thin fabric, pulling me toward him with a silent challenge. My lips parted, but no words came. All I could manage was a shaky breath, betraying how unsteady I felt beneath the weight of his touch. "I see it in your eyes," he whispered, his voice low, edged with something darker than tenderness. "You wonder what it would feel like, different hands, different lips." His accusation, or maybe it was a confession, sliced through me. The air thickened, my pulse racing as my body leaned into him even while my mind screamed at the implications. Jealousy flared hot between us, tangled with temptation. I searched his face, trying to read whether he meant it, whether he was pushing me away or daring me closer. His jaw was tense, his stare unrelenting, as if he was testing me, measuring how far I was willing to go. "You think I don't notice?" His hand pressed firmer at my back. "The way you look when they're around?" My heart stuttered. He was right, I had looked. And he had looked too. That unspoken truth shimmered between us, undeniable now, stripping away the safety of denial. For one fragile second, I wanted to admit it. To whisper yes, I'd thought about it, dreamed about it. Instead, I closed my eyes and let the silence answer for me. His breath trembled against my ear, and though he didn't say another word, the message was clear: we were both standing at the edge of something we couldn't step back from. And then, from the shadows, their laughter came again, closer this time. Almost beckoning. The night pressed tighter around us, and the laughter that had hovered at the edges of the field grew distant again, swallowed by the dark. It left only us, two people bound together by vows, yet standing dangerously close to unraveling them. His hands slid higher along my back, urging me to rise. I followed without protest, my knees brushing against his as he stood with me, so close that even the cool night air couldn't slip between us. The wet grass clung to my dress, its dampness forgotten under the heat of his presence. We moved in silence, instinct guiding us toward the old oak tree at the edge of the clearing. Its branches arched overhead like a shield, a private canopy against the world. The stillness beneath it felt like a secret meeting, stolen and unplanned, as though the universe itself had placed us here to decide something we weren't ready to name. He leaned against the trunk, pulling me closer with a subtle tug that left my palms pressed to his chest. His heartbeat thundered beneath my fingertips, fierce and unsteady, mirroring my own. His eyes searched mine, no longer hiding the longing, no longer softening the truth. "You feel it too," he breathed, voice rough, almost breaking. The words were dangerous, because they were true. I felt it in every stolen glance, in every pause before a kiss, in every moment where our silence said more than our vows ever could. The desire wasn't simple anymore, it was tangled, messy, and edged with something forbidden that made my blood rush faster. I swallowed, trying to steady myself, but his hands slid along my waist, anchoring me, holding me as if he already knew I wouldn't pull away. The closeness was unbearable, every breath shared, every heartbeat in sync. The tension crackled like lightning trapped between us, ready to strike. And then, just as I thought his lips would finally claim mine, the sound of footsteps approached again. Slow. Intentional. This time, they didn't pass by. They stopped. A figure emerged from the shadows, silhouetted by the faint moonlight. Familiar. Watching. We weren't alone under the oak. The figure stepped into the light, and the night shattered. It was her. Her laughter still clung to the air like perfume, but now there was no mistaking the intent in her eyes. She wasn't surprised to find us pressed so close beneath the oak, she expected it. And worse, she looked at him, not me, as if the silent confession of where his heart wandered had already been made. My breath caught, the damp earth cool against my feet as the weight of realization pressed harder than the night air. The distance between us, the stolen glances, the unspoken silences, it hadn't been just me feeling something forbidden. He had been carrying his own secret, and it was standing right in front of us. Her smile curved, small but sharp, and the ground beneath me seemed to tilt. "I wondered when you'd stop pretending," she whispered, her voice soft, dangerous, threaded with something I couldn't name. He tensed, his body rigid against mine, yet he didn't step away. His hand still rested at my waist, his heartbeat hammering against my palm. But in that split second of hesitation, I saw it, the truth that burned in his eyes when he looked at her. Jealousy surged hot and bitter through me, tangled with something darker, temptation. Because the way she looked at him, the way she looked at us, ignited a spark I hadn't expected. My throat tightened, torn between rage and an aching pull that felt like betrayal and desire woven into the same thread. "You're not the only one with secrets," he said finally, his voice raw, jagged. His grip on me tightened, as if anchoring himself, but his eyes never left hers. My pulse raced, torn between pushing him away and pulling him closer, desperate to claim what still felt like mine even as it slipped. Every nerve screamed that the moment was spiraling out of control, that the truth wasn't just about him, or her, but about all of us. She stepped closer, her presence electric, her gaze flicking between us with deliberate slowness. "Maybe," she said softly, "it's time we stop hiding what we all feel." The words hung heavy in the night, dripping with promise and danger. I froze, my breath shallow, his hand firm against me, her shadow stretching toward us. The boundaries of vows, of friendship, of loyalty, everything blurred in that instant. The temptation wasn't just his anymore. It was mine too. My lips parted, my body trembling with the weight of the choice pressing against me. But before I could speak, the fourth figure stepped from the shadows. Her husband. And the night broke open. The fourth figure stepped into the clearing, and silence hit harder than the laughter had. His presence shifted the air, rigid, commanding, the kind that demanded truth without words. Her husband. His gaze flicked between us, and in the moonlight, I could see the betrayal carving itself into his features. No one moved. My chest heaved, trapped between the heat of my husband's grip and the chill of the storm breaking above us. For a moment, I thought the ground itself might swallow us whole. Finally, he spoke. "So this is what's been happening." His voice was steady, but the tremor beneath it betrayed the storm brewing inside. My husband's hand tightened at my waist, pulling me closer as if possession could erase the truth. "It's not what you think," he snapped, but the words rang hollow. Her husband's eyes narrowed, cold, sharp. Then he turned to her. "And you? Were you ever going to tell me?" The other woman stepped forward, shoulders squared, voice laced with defiance. "Tell you what? That your wife and I both see what you pretend not to? That you've been watching us the same way we've been watching each other?" The accusation struck like lightning. My breath caught, realization sinking in, none of us were innocent. The cracks in our marriages weren't accidents. They were choices. Desires. hidden longings that had finally broken free under the weight of this night. Tears burned in my eyes, but not from weakness, from the sheer force of it all, from standing on the edge of something I couldn't turn away from. "We can't keep pretending," I whispered, my voice trembling. "Not anymore." The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. For lives entangled, each heartbeat a drum of anger, betrayal, longing. My husband's jaw clenched, his chest rising and falling against me. Then he released me, stepping forward, his voice raw. "Maybe this ends tonight. No more lies. No more pretending." His words weren't soft, they were a challenge, directed at all of us. The other man stared back, fists clenched, torn between fury and surrender. His wife's gaze lingered on me, not him, her expression unreadable yet undeniably charged. For a moment, I felt suspended, caught between destruction and rebirth. The truth had finally broken us open. And in that wreckage, choices waited. Dangerous, tempting choices that would decide whether this night would destroy us, or bind us closer than we ever imagined. The air pulsed with the weight of it, every eye locked, every breath sharp. But no one spoke the final word. Because the night wasn't finished with us yet. The silence beneath the oak tree stretched until it felt unbreakable, for hearts caught in a storm of betrayal, desire, and the weight of choices we could no longer avoid. Yet, somehow, beneath all that chaos, something shifted. The anger softened, the sharp edges dulled, and the rawness of truth began to glow with something unexpected. Her husband let out a heavy breath, the fight draining from his body as he looked at her, really looked at her. The tension in his jaw loosened, his fists unclenched, and his voice, though low, carried the kind of honesty that couldn't be ignored. "I was afraid of losing you," he admitted. "So I shut down before you ever had a chance to tell me what you needed." Her defiance faltered, replaced by something gentler. She reached for his hand, hesitating only a second before their fingers intertwined. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was connection, raw and trembling. Beside me, my husband turned, his eyes searching mine with the same desperation. His hand brushed against my cheek, tentative, as though I might still pull away. "I wanted to protect us," he whispered. "But in doing so, I pushed you further away." Tears threatened, but for once, they felt like release, not restraint. I leaned into his touch, my forehead against his, our breaths mingling in a fragile kind of peace. For all the pain, for all the secrets, we were still here, still holding on, even at the edge of breaking. And then, something unspoken passed between the four of us. Not forgiveness. Not surrender. But understanding. We had been drawn to the edge of temptation, and in that darkness, we'd been forced to confront who we truly were, and what we still meant to each other. The other woman squeezed her husband's hand, then looked at me. There was no malice in her eyes anymore, only a bittersweet recognition of the line we had all almost crossed. My husband's arms circled me, pulling me close, and for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt not just wanted, but chosen. Under the oak, with the damp grass cool beneath our feet and the moonlight painting us in silver, we didn't break. We didn't fall apart. Instead, we found a way back to each other, not perfect, not unscarred, but real. As his lips finally met mine, soft yet certain, the night seemed to exhale with us. No more pretending. No more silence. Just us, tangled hearts beating together in the quiet promise of a new beginning. And in that moment, everything else, the secrets, the jealousy, the shadows, faded. What remained was love. Messy, flawed, but unshakably real.